into what that song declares. I am light. I am light. I am light. There's a beautiful teaching attributed to the Sufi poet Rumi, which says, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." The wound is the place. And to prepare us for the message this morning, I will lead us through a body scan meditation. And in this meditation, I will ask us to draw our attention and our awareness to these places in the physical body as I mention them. You can't do this wrong. And I also know this might be challenging if the body feels like something you have ignored for so long. It's one of the purposes of this meditation is to say hello to this physical vessel that carries your light in the world. So continuing to breathe as we scan the body, just like to remind you that holding the breath never makes any task easier. Sometimes when we're overcome with pain and trauma, it could be our tendency to hold the breath. But what would it feel like instead if we sent the breath to these places of challenge? So we'll begin our scan of the body by noticing the top, the crown of the head. The forehead, your face, your eyes and nose and ears and cheeks, your lips and teeth and tongue. Notice your throat, your neck, back of the neck, your shoulders. And moving your attention and awareness down each arm, right side, your shoulder, your elbows, your hands and fingers, and your left side. Your shoulder, your elbow, your hands and fingers. Notice your back, your upper back, your lower back, your chest, your stomach, your waist and hips. And moving down both legs now. Notice your thighs, your knees, your shins, your calves, your ankles, your feet and toes. And notice your feet rooted to the earth. And friends, if there's any places in your physical body today that perhaps are missing, maybe they are hurting because of challenge or illness, what would it be like if we sent some light and love there? and moving away from the physical when we talk about the wound being the place where the light enters us. What may be some of the other wounds or challenges that you've come in here with today? And how might those show up in your body? Some of us deal with backaches or stomach pains, or that soreness might just feel a little heavier on days when the stress is getting to us. Can we send those places light? Can we know that those places are light? And for those of you with closed eyes, when it feels appropriate, let your eyes gently blink open. And I would ask you to take a stretch or a movement along with me, especially if this helps you say hello to this physical body even more. So when I saw the theme for August, it struck me as a good opportunity to do a talk on what is quite literally my day job. A lot of you know I'm an interfaith seminary student right now, yet for the last 21 years, I've worked as a clinical counselor. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor, and my specialty is working with post-traumatic stress and dissociation and addiction and the various things that come along with it. So when I say trauma, I'm just going to ask you to answer this to yourself. There's not a right or wrong answer I'm looking for. When I say trauma, what comes up for you? What words do you associate with the idea of trauma? So before I worked as a therapist, I was actually an English teacher. And I love the English language because we pull it from so many different languages, and exploring word origin, exploring where we get these words we often use so casually, can really give us a lot of insight. So, fun fact, maybe not so fun of a fact, but a fact nonetheless, is that the English word trauma comes from the Greek word meaning wound. It is a simple, direct translation. Traumatikos means wound. So, what is it that we know about physical wounds and how they heal? Some things I've heard and considered over the years can include that wounds can take a very short time to cause, but a very long time to heal. The human body, in our amazingness, has so much of what we need to help facilitate healing in ourselves. Yet conditions need to be in as good of a place as possible for the body to do her magic. If you have a condition like you're immunocompromised, if you have a complicating disease like hemophilia, a simple cut like this may take you to the hospital, where for many of us, it might just mean give it some time and space. Clean it out, don't agitate it. But that is also wound care. That with physical wounds, we may need different things depending on who we are and what our bodies allow. Now, a lot of you know I had knee replacement surgery back in March, and I've shared knee replacement stories with many people in this room. And any surgery experience can teach you a lot about wounds and how they heal. Physical therapy is real pleasant, right? Yeah. The process of physical therapy can feel grueling and challenging, yet I know the reason I'm standing up here today without assistance is because I did physical therapy and because I did the hard work of what was needed to help my surgical wounds heal. So I hope even as I share some of these ideas that the metaphor is already starting to click with you. That so much of what we know about emotional wounds, spiritual wounds, psychological wounds, sexual wounds, parallel what we know about physical wounds, that they need time and attention, that the healing process can sometimes be very challenging. That if we go back into a game, let's say this is a soccer player who injures their game or injures their knee in a game, and if we go back in without doing nothing, we may play just fine. That is a potential. But there's also a potential that infection can set in. There's a potential that others may try to take advantage of the fact that we're injured. And there's also this potential that we could put others at risk if we go out there in the field of play with an open, gaping wound. You may have heard this saying before that hurt people hurt people. My trauma therapist's view of that is that when we don't attend to our wounds, we run the risk of bleeding all over each other. So wound care is essential. And something that may sound a bit harsh, as I've considered this trauma as wound metaphor for almost 15 years now, is that some wounds may never truly heal if we're defining healing as restoration, going back to the way things should be. Maybe you were born with a congenital birth defect. Maybe the injury you incurred medically cannot be fixed. That doesn't mean you're broken. Because wounds, through care, through support, through accessing healing resources that may be available to you, wounds can be adapted to. And even people with serious physical, emotional, spiritual injuries that I have worked with in my career and who I've encountered in my life can go on to lead thriving lives. So I mentioned in the opening meditation the Rumi quote that is often invoked in the trauma therapy circles where I hang out, that the wound is the place where the light enters you. So this is the very Instagram, social media friendly version of the quote. Like most quotes you see, there's more to the story, because things from, in this case, the language of ancient Persian get translated and handed down, and it is like a big game of telephone. So if you like this quote, by all means, please continue to use it. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Because for me, what this means as a trauma therapist is even the most horrible things you experienced can be a catalyst for transformation. So if you like Rumi quotes, if you've read Rumi's poetry, you've probably read a version translated by a University of Georgia professor named Coleman Barks. And his translation actually even has a little more detail than the wound is the place the light enters you. And again, any of these translations I'm going to share with you, take what you like and leave the rest, because I do believe the core idea is very much the same. Keep looking at the bandaged place. That is where the light enters you. And this is a more academic translation. And if the peer or spiritual teacher lays a plaster on your wound, at once the pain and lamentation are stilled. The healing ray of the plaster has shone upon the wounded spot. A healing radiance from the medicine or salve shines upon the wounded place. So what I think is interesting about this version of the quote is the reference to the spiritual teacher. I want to be clear, I do not believe that we need a guru or someone to fix us. If anybody ever tells you that they can fix you or cure you with one single prayer or one single healing meditation, you're being lied to. I'm sorry. That's just my experience. Although I want to recognize that a lot of us crave that healing so badly, that relief from suffering, that we may be willing to take whatever is offered to us. And in my case, I've had several different spiritual teachings that have been vital in playing the role here that Rumi's talking about here, helping to put plaster on the wound. Now, I'm not going to go into a big lecture here about my profession, other than to say, if professional therapy, if professional coaching, or any other professional method comes across your path that can offer you some relief, and it feels like a good fit for you, by all means, take it. I know that several of the very talented therapists I've had the chance to work with as a client throughout my life have indeed, I believe, been sent from God, spiritual teachers. And sometimes there's this idea that, well, if you're a spiritual person, you shouldn't need therapy. On the contrary, and I go back to one of my first recovery sponsors, who I met when I was still working for the Catholic Church in a very religious context. And she had this, amazing Southern accent that I still hear in my head when I hear her voice. And she said, Jamie, I believe that Jesus can heal you. But I also believe that Jesus wants you to work on your SHIT. Yes. I still hold that teaching in my heart to this day, that I believe the two can go hand in hand. That what you receive from spiritual teaching and what you may need to do with somebody who is professionally able to help you work on your deep wounds, they can very much fuse. And we're really living in exciting times with what is available for helping people who have experienced trauma and wounds and various stressors. And even if you're saying, well, I don't know if I would say I experienced a trauma because I didn't go to war, I didn't survive a natural disaster, I say those are the kind of traumas that are more likely to make the news. And yes, in the early days of trauma psychology, those are what we tended to focus on the most. But if you think of the metaphor I established, that trauma as wound, we know that wounds can come in different shapes and sizes. And a wound that might seem major, if it gets the treatment and the care it needs, it may go on to be no big deal. But a subjectively small wound that continues to fester and infect and doesn't get the time and attention it needs may go on creating greater complications. So whatever your wounds are, they're valid, they matter. And if it feels too big to say they're trauma, what would it feel like to say that they're wounds? Wounds that might be keeping me stuck. So what I would like to share with you, considering our context here at Unity Chapel of Light, is what are some of the spiritual teachings that I have found in my healing process that do go hand in hand with this idea of healing the wounds that may keep us stuck, or embracing the wounds as our source of light. So the traditions of Sanatana Dharma, known in the West as Hinduism, but that's a colonial term. The traditions of Sanatana Dharma, the religious traditions of India that would go on to be Hinduism and Buddhism, lean into this metaphor of the ocean and the wave. And I'll do my best to give this explanation justice. Who you really are is the ocean. Think about that. Settle with that for a moment. Who you really are is the ocean. Universal, unchanging, and timeless. And these various lives that we live, these unique expressions, are but a wave. An important wave. Yet think that the wave can never not be the ocean. That the things we can get hung up on this life, although they may feel like the end of the world, can never change who we really are. It's big. And some days I sit and I meditate on this teaching and I'm like, whoa. But it also helps me to better appreciate my fellow humankind, who I often struggle with so much. That we are the same ocean. So my study in the traditions of Sanatana Dharma has largely come in the Kripalu tradition of yoga. This is Swami Sri Kripalvanand, who lived in this body from 1912 to 1981. Bapuji, he was called affectionately. And there is a teaching of Bapuji's that I often hold on to during the times when, as this wave, I am struggling the most. And Bapuji shared, "My beloved child, break your heart no longer. Each time you judge yourself, you break your own heart. You stop feeding on the love, which is the wellspring of your vitality. The time has come, your time, to live, to celebrate, and to see the goodness that you are. Let no one, no thing, no idea, or ideal obstruct you if one comes, even in the name of truth. Forgive it for its unknowing. Do not fight. Let go. And breathe into the goodness that you are." Later in this teaching, he goes on to say, "Do not be afraid of the dark. Just turn on the light." And that's pretty easy. Maybe simple, but not easy. It's easy, simple to turn on the light when you realize you're always carrying that light with you. So one of the other major religious traditions that came from Sanatana Dharma are, of course, the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. And these Four Noble Truths, if we're kind of taking a tour here through a lot of the global faith traditions that we cherish, also give us a recipe or a set of ideas for how we can heal. So sorry to break it to you, life always involves suffering. In obvious and subtle forms. And even when things feel good, we can feel an undercurrent of anxiety and uncertainty inside. The cause of suffering, second noble truth, is fundamental ignorance or misunderstanding about our own nature and the nature of reality. And this is where a lot of the great sages, this is where Bapuji would have said, we suffer because we forget who we really are. We forget that we are that ocean, that we are pure light. And our suffering can be alleviated as the awakened mind is always available. By spiritual practice, living ethically, and developing wisdom, we can take the time, we can take the same journey to enlightenment and freedom from suffering that the Buddhas do. So here's a much more simplified version. This is from a beautiful site called The Lion's Roar, of what the Four Noble Truths are and how we can put them into our practice. That there is suffering, there is wounding, there is trauma, whatever you want to call it. And the cause is forgetting that we are that pure light. We are that ocean. So when we talk about trauma as wound, I want to unpack Christianity for a little bit too. Because for many of us, our experiences in Christianity have been traumatic because of things that were done to us or things that were done in God's name to us. And even a lot of the traditional imagery of the Christ crucified story is a passion play of trauma. I know growing up, this line from Isaiah, "With his stripes we are healed," was always kind of shoved down my throat, so to speak. Don't forget that Jesus' wounding is the cause of your salvation. Another interesting reference to wound and scarring is Thomas. From John, when Thomas doubted that this was really Jesus he was beholding, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and bring your hand and put it into my side, and do not be unbelieving, but believe." And one commentary I read on this as I was preparing for this talk said, you can interpret the Thomas story a bunch of different ways, but isn't it really a beautiful thing that Jesus didn't try to hide his scars in his resurrection? And so what is it that we can learn about our scars? Because when we go back to our trauma as wound metaphor, even though scars can cause complications as well, the skin that composes a scar is generally tougher than the rest of our skin. And our scars, even though they may come with shame for some of us, can be reminders of everything that we've been through. So, the whole Jesus died for my sins theology, that Jesus' stripes bled because of me and for me, has been something I've struggled with, to put it nicely, as I've looked at where Christianity fits into my larger system of belief. And if that is a theology that serves you, by all means, your theology is your own. I'm not here to take it from you. I will share something that has helped me really frame where the wounds of Jesus fits in to my belief, which is very similar to Unity's now, which is Jesus as way shower, Jesus as manifestation of the divine. So this is a fancy word, $10 word if you're ever on Jeopardy, soteriology. I had a whole class on this in seminary. It's something that gets studied and picked apart in seminaries, and it really is the theology of salvation. And what do the different faith traditions believe about salvation? So even if you would look it up on dictionary.com today, it would say soteriology comes from the Greek word meaning salvation. But soter, that root for salvation, is the same root where we get salve. Salve, salvation. And so one of my professors really worked with me on maybe instead of seeing Jesus as Savior, you can see Jesus as healer. And instead of saying, "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me," we can sing, "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that healed a soul like me." And that for me is where the wound is the light really plays into my personal theology today. So another figure from Christianity who has helped to save my relationship with Christianity, quite frankly, is Father Henry Nouwen, who coined the term, popularly used, the wounded healer. And he was born in 1932, left the body in 1996. I swear he's one of those guides that I feel with me at all times. And he has said this about wounds and wound care. And this, I think, really applies when we think about being here as a community for each other, thinking about where the relationships in our lives have been healing balm. When we honestly ask ourselves, which person in our lives mean the most to us? We often find that it is those who, instead of giving advice, solutions, or cures, have chosen rather to share our pain and touch our wounds with a warm and tender hand. The friend who can be silent with us in a moment of despair or confusion, who can stay with us in our hour of grief and bereavement, who can tolerate not knowing, not curing, not healing, and face with us the reality of our powerlessness. That is a friend who cares. It's okay not to know everything. It's okay not to feel like you're being cured or even healed. Because this, like many things, is a process. But what now challenges me to see is, do you know who the people are that you can go to who also believe that you are light and can sit with you in that compassionate witness and make you feel it too? So for our musical response this week, I'm going to do my own music. So I'm going to have Travis and Nadine come up. One of the forms of therapy I do and teach is expressive arts therapy, and songwriting is a big part of that. Songwriting has been a big vehicle for me to receive some of these messages from divine source and to help me express my heart to the world. So this is a call and response tune. If you were here at Sing Along last time, we did this out at the gazebo. And I will sing a line in the tradition of Indian Kirtan, and then if you would like to jump in and respond to the line the next time through, hopefully you'll pick up on what we're doing. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay as I am. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay as I am. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy as I am. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy as I am. I'm awake. I'm awake. I'm awake am. I am loved. I am loved. I am loved as I am. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light as I am. I am light. I am light. I am light as I am. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay as I am. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay as